All right, hitting the go live. And it says the stream is live, so it looks good. And welcome to an impromptu live stream here, everybody, with AZ Drone. My name is Rich Charpentier. I'm the channel host, and we do a lot of drone talk, and we also talk about building your drone business. And today, I'm doing something completely unusual. We're doing a Saturday live stream. I'll still be doing the Monday live stream. But this week, while I was working with a client, something came up which aggravated me. So beyond aggravated me, I had to do a restore of the client's website to a previous period, and that was because some changes have happened with the page builder of my choice, which is X Theme. So back in 2017, when I launched on Udemy, my first class was an X Theme class, building websites with WordPress and X Theme. It's a very powerful builder, and if you're a WordPress user and you want some really cool stylization, this might be the theme for you. But you got to be careful with it. So, and this isn't just X Theme, this is all website builders. Bottom line is changes happen. So that class that I started in 2017, when I sat down to get the class loaded up to Udemy, X Theme made a massive change. We're not talking a small change, we're talking a huge change in how their menus worked. The layout of the screens that you saw, it was really aggravating. Basically, I had to redo about 2/3 of that class that I'd created. And I think there's well over 20 hours of video there and editing. And, you know, the final class was smaller than that. But I had to go through and tear that class apart and redo it because the changes were so huge. And I think that's where we are right now with X Theme as well. So if you're a Squarespace user or a Wix user or whatever you're using to build your websites, this is going to come up for you too. It's not going to be like X Theme, but these things change over time. So one of the things that you need to think about building your drone business is this something you want to manage? Do you want to be managing your customers and your flights and your deliverables and your accounting and your website? At some point, you sub some of this stuff out. So I've been trying to be as honest and clear as possible to folks on this channel. And in my classes, there's a fair bit of work to be done when you're building your own drone business. So I wanted to show you what happened to me and why I shut down my X Theme course months ago. The changes that were going on, they were small changes here and there, but they accumulated to larger changes. So some students got in touch with me and I'd have private one-on-ones with them because a new button was introduced and they didn't know what the button was for, or a button was moved. And you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about shortly. This is going to, you'll get the idea real fast. But let's say I was working with my client this week. When I work with my clients, I actually record things on Zoom or I record them on OBS or other things. And then I send those videos to my clients so that they can manage some of their work themselves. Now, before we get into that, I'm going to do something I don't usually do. We're doing a little self-promotion today. We put it in some of the videos here and there. But if you're interested in any of the classes that we do on 2D and 3D modeling, introduction to that for drone pilots, if you're interested in time-lapse work, if you're interested in construction progression work, we have some courses over there. So for the non-bundled courses, the individual standalone courses, there's a coupon code of 40%. And we also have a couple of bundled courses. Also, I have a new class that will be coming out for the start of 2021. For those of you who've just gotten your Part 107 licenses or certifications. And hey, Ray, how are you doing this morning? And hey, Davenport, good to see you guys. Yes, happy Saturday indeed. So there are a couple of bundled courses that take multiple classes together and nice percentage discount there. And the new class that'll be coming out in 2021 will also be a standalone and a bundle. So it's az-drone.teachable.com/courses if you want to see what's over there. All right, and with that, we're going to go ahead and let's close that one out and quit the preview, and maybe I'll pop that up again at the end of the live stream. I do appreciate all the support on this channel and also the folks who are my patrons on Patreon. And if you haven't signed up to be a patron, you can do that as well. All right, enough advertising for me. Let's go take a look at something. So This is the RLC sandbox. So I make a sandbox when I'm testing things out for clients. And this is not an example of how I would lay something out. This was something a client sent to me, and they've been laying their website out with Excel. So different strokes for different folks, right? But so they had sent a couple things on to me, and they wanted me to play around before we started doing their real website. But doing some testing at the end of this week, I had some upgrades. And those upgrades included something from ThemeCo, which is the class that I shut down on Udemy not too long ago, because there's so much changing in it now. It's not really changed. They moved buttons around. So let's say normally we had this jar of water here. One of the things that they did in their update is they moved the water over to here. Now, the functionality of the buttons didn't change at all. They just moved crap around. So you're used to working on your builder, and you've got your menu over here, and you've got your workspace over here. And suddenly, after an upgrade, your menu gets moved down to the bottom, or your menu gets moved to the top. And I'd hear from students, a lot of students, hey, what's going on with that? Everything's different. I'm like, actually, it's not. And if you take 2 minutes to look at it, you'll find those missing things. But the changes that we saw recently were mind-blowing. So I'm logged into WordPress. We use WP Engine for our hosting provider. They're nice and secure. I like them a lot. And you don't have to go with those guys. You can use whoever you want. But so I'm already logged into the RLC Design Sandbox, and this is going to bring me into your standard WordPress interface. So if you're familiar with WordPress at all, you're going to look at this and go, hey, this is WordPress, yeah. X Theme is the builder for making more stylized pages for us. So we can go in and we can make posts for our blog entries. We can make pages. And to start doing a new page, right up here on the top, I've got a new button. Now, we're not going to go through all the features of this, I promise. But if I wanted to start making a new page, I can hit new page here. And now it's in my little page editor. So we could call this live stream page example. There we go. So I could start typing down here, but I'm not going to because I'm going to use that WordPress builder later. So there's a lot of tools in here. These are standard WordPress tools, okay? So you can start typing in here and build your pages this way, and they're very plain, very boring pages. And then I have a couple other tools in here from other plugins. Once I'm done, I gave it a title. That's all I've done. I'm going to hit the publish button. And so now we've created a page. It's not on our menus or anything yet. It's nothing like that. But we do have a page named Livestream Example. And I could preview the changes. I could do updates in it. But in this main editor area, I'm going to go over to Pro because I use X Theme and X Theme Pro. Pro has a couple more features that most people just aren't going to want, especially if you're building your business and you just want to put up a nice website. You can definitely do that with X Theme and Pro. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Pro here, and we're going to go take a look in here, and then we'll show you the thing that shocked me the other day while working on my client stuff. So we've got our live stream page example, and so this is a live editor, so that's really cool because I can see what I'm doing here. Over on the left-hand side, we've got some things. We've got add a section over here, so we can make sections. We can create templates for ourselves that are reusable. That's all great. On the left-hand side, you will see, I'm going to go down to the bottom. We have a save button. We have a page settings button that looks like a little cog here. We have a preview button, so it shows us a preview of the page that we're working on. We have a button that lets us look at this if it's a big screen, a laptop, a tablet, a smartphone, and a smaller smartphone. So it lets me preview everything. This is awesome. They also have a button just to get that menu out of the way. Let me pull that back. And then we have a couple other tools. Let's see here. Oh yeah, it popped that out for me. So I could move this little bar around. I really don't want to do that right now. And I'm going to turn off the phone symbol. We can revert. We've got JavaScript, and we've got cascading style sheets for those of you who want to create your own styles in the X Theme or in WordPress in general. You can do that. So if you're an advanced website builder, there are a lot of tools here. It's awesome. Let's go look at the top. We've got layout. So this is where we can lay things out, and it's got a button that says add a section. There's a reason why I'm going slow through this, because when we change to the new version, you're going to lose your mind like I did. No, you might not lose your mind, but so we've got our layout, and we're going to do something that, and then we've got elements. So we've got all these tools that they give us that we can drop into the web page. Really cool. And then we've got our inspector, and right now we've got nothing to inspect. So let's go back over to layout and let's make a section. And when I make a section over here on the left-hand side, it says section 1 and it's got a row beneath it. Okay. And I can choose a layout. So let's do 2 columns here just to be fun. So we've got column number 1 and column number 2. Very nice. And this is the inspector for the row. So if I look over here, and like I said, this isn't a full tutorial, so we're not going through all this. But if I look over here, we're looking at section 1, row number 1. We can even make presets for it. We've got a column 1 and a column 2. We've got our layout, and then we've got some setup tools, so we could make our margins bigger or smaller. So there's a lot of tools in here. And when you teach an online class about this, so I did the class on this previously, the different platform previews are very handy. Absolutely, Ray. It's one of the things I really like. And there's also some global changes you can do. So there's the X theme options. So in one fell swoop, you can tell all of your fonts to be this font. You can tell all your top bar fonts to be this font. You can make navigation bars. You can make little extra top bars like this big bold print. The folks who I was working with wanted this big bold print because they have a retirement community, and as the person who I've been working with says, some of us have old eyes. So we get to test all these things out, and these are some major tools with X theme. There are other great builders, so don't just go, oh, well, Rich is recommending X theme. No, there's a lot of good builders out there, so it's up to you and the tools you want. But so we've got a lot of customization for our row. We could change those layouts, so maybe I'd make a skinny column and a wide column. Really cool. And you're going to see why this is relevant when we switch. So we've got lots of setup things, but so these 2 empty boxes here are what they call elements. It used to be that the buttons up here actually had little icon indicators, and that was a change that happened a while ago, and I heard from a lot of students on that old class. They still have access to that class on Udemy. I'm just not updating that class right now because it'd be another 20 or 30 hours. I'd have to trash everything and start from the beginning again. So we've got that layout, we've got elements. So we can take an element and put it into the layout. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's just search. Let's just get a text box. So I'm going to grab a text box, and they've got classic text from their old version. So they've got a lot of residual stuff in there too. So all I did was drag a text box into that column. Boom, there it is. That's awesome. It's pretty straightforward. If I click on the text box, and I look over on the left, let's look at that inspector again. So we're looking at section number 1, and you see how that highlights. We're looking at row number 1. We're looking at column number 1, and we're looking at the text box in the column. I can easily grab that text box and drag it over to column 2, and now look, section 1, row 1, column 2, and text. Pretty cool. So very easy to navigate around here and move things around. So I'm going to drag that text on back. I've got that text highlighted, and over here on the left, we've got setup text. They give me a nice little flyout here, and I can either look at it and do HTML code in here, or I can use their automatic builder so that when I pop something new in, here's some more info. Let's go with that. And let's even right here on our little bar here, we got a lot of stuff. I'm going to add an image. So let's just add an image that I had up on the front page of it. And it actually is going to resize that image to fit in that box for me. I'm going to click on this once more. And right now it has no alignment. Let's just go ahead and center align that. There we go. It moved it over just a bit. Now we're going to move on in just a minute, but I just wanted to show you some of the cool tools in this. When I'm done with that text box, I can just close. And looking over on the left-hand side, we've got this bar. We've got a menu bar down here on the left-hand side. One of the items is save. So I can save this as it is. Awesome. And in the upper left corner, it gives me a little awesome. So let's go back to elements and let's pop something else in. Let's do a tabbed thing. So Some people like tabs, some people don't like tabs. So what is a tab thing? So now I'm here and I've got tab number 1 where I could put some information or images or other stuff. And I've got a tab number 2 and I could actually add more tabs. So there's a lot of elements available from X Theme to really stylize a website. So if you're building your business website, tab 1 could be your construction stuff. Tab 2 could be your real estate stuff. You could get pretty creative with this. So I'm digging it. Now I'm just going to hit that save button again. And so this page has been saved. And if I want to, down on that lower left bar, so I'm going real slow because you probably can't see the mouse, but look where I'm moving that mouse around. There's a preview button. That's going to open up a new page. So this is actually showing us what our page looks like right now. So it's not great. We're just starting out. We're playing around with this. So we've got those 2 tab browsers too. And like I said, let's close that preview and go back here. And they have just tons of elements to work with. So if you scroll through here, you can find a lot of different stuff. So it's all up to you how you want to build the website, how you want to lay it out. And they're giving you a ton of tools. Now, while I'm working on these web pages, once again, this is a sandbox, but while I'm working on these web pages with my clients, I actually do recordings with them. So I'm going to minimize this, and I've got a window up from one of my last Zoom meetings with the client. So I just wanted to show you this. So we were building some of their menu bars, and we were also building some of their forms for their website, and then taking a look at the website. And so I'm actually having a conversation with the client, walking through this and showing them all different features of the editor, which is awesome. So when I'm done with one of these, when we're done working through pages directly with the client, I can send them this video for future reference, because I do encourage my clients to make the changes they can make so they don't have to call me all the time and get billed. I know I want billable hours, but if there's a simple thing that a customer can do and they can do it in 5 or 10 minutes time, then they should be able to do that. I'm not going to hold them hostage. I'm never holding a customer hostage. So anyways, as you see, I was on for quite a while with this client because we were doing a lot. So we had a 1 hour and 45-minute section as we were going through cleaning up things, and no comments on the layout and design. It's not my layout and design. It's not my personal preference. This is what the client wanted. And they explained their reasons, so I executed the styles they wanted. I would like to have done a little more with the site and made it a little more appealing to me, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and quit the QuickTime player there. But I just wanted to give you an idea. When I work with my customers, I'm actually recording, and then I give them a copy of the recording for their own tutorials. It's an awesome selling point with some people. Some other people just say to me, you do the job, Rich. We don't want to know about this. We're busy running our business. So I totally get that. I agree with them and I understand them. So we made that page. We've saved that page. We looked at that page. I'm going to go to the left-hand corner up here, and this is another X theme option. I'm going to go down to exit to dashboard. So that brings us back to our WordPress dashboard. Pretty familiar, and we could go back in and edit with Pro. What I want to do, we're going to go visit the site. So once again, this was a mock-up for a client, so this isn't the style that I would usually do these things in. But I wanted to show you this page too. So we used X Themes Builder to start laying this out with the customer. Well, right up here, I have a button that's called Pro. And when I hold my mouse over Pro, there's the edit page. So cool, we're going to edit the page. So you've seen this before on the other one, but so here's our page, and we could move things around. And I just want you to take note, we've got layout, elements, and inspector. We have a top banner, and in that top banner, we have 1 row, and we have 2 columns, okay? And then we have another one called section 2. If I scroll down here and I point to this, and I select section 2 and row 1, there's section 2 and row 1. Pretty straightforward. So we have all of our buttons here on the left-hand side, our save button, all these other things. We have layout at the top, we have elements, we have inspector. Okay. And inspector does different things on different elements. So if I click into the text element and I'm in the inspector, we got a lot of things. So we can edit that text. We could give it a background color. So bloop. Ugh, that's terrible, but we could do it. Let's put that back to white. There we go. All right. But there's a lot that you can experiment with. And this is something else that I tell people in my classes is you need to go in and experiment. So just like your drone operations, if you're flying your drone and you're learning the Go4 app, or you're learning Litchi, or whatever app you're learning, you're going to need to poke around in some of those menus, because over time those menus change. And people aren't updating their tutorials on a daily basis unless it's their full-time job. And if it's not their full-time job, they might be a couple months out of date with classes. And some software providers are changing things so rapidly that it feels like every 2 weeks you should be doing updates to some of these. So I do encourage students, if a button is missing, take a look around to see where they moved it. Don't panic right away. And with me saying don't panic right away, let's hop out of this layout. So you have a pretty decent idea. There are a lot of tools in here, and this is what the menus look like now. Now we're going to go ahead and do the update that they released just a few days ago. And I didn't get really a good list of their release notes till I went to their website because I was upset. And here's the X Theme's latest release notes. They have had some huge changes that for a class on X Theme, let's say, would require a pretty substantial overhaul to get that class where it needs to be. But so you can take a look through these after I'll talk about them a little more. But so I'm going to go to the upper left corner, and I'm going down to exit the dashboard, and it says to me, hey, you made some changes that you didn't save. So they really do watch out for you here. But I'm going to tell it yes, proceed, because we don't need to mess that up. So we're back in our dashboard, and I'm going to go up to my plugins because it's telling me there's some updates for me for my plugins. So let's see here, Essential Grid, Slider Revolution, WP Table Builder. So these are some other tools that I test with on this sandbox site. So I should, let's go ahead and do those updates. That's just going to take a moment. And that's another thing, whether you're using WordPress or another page builder, updates do happen. So you need to stay on top of your updates because sometimes they're security updates, sometimes they're enhancements. You can't ignore the updates, especially security updates. Doesn't matter what platform you're on. If you get security notifications, take care of them. So now I'm going back to my plugin updates, and I'm going to go down to X Theme Pro, and we're going to do an update there. And I said, no, thanks, I already did it because I do have a backup. One of the things I like with WP Engine is they do nightly backups. So if you mess something up, worst case scenario, you can go back to yesterday. You can also on WP Engine go kick off new backups. So while I'm building or changing stuff for my own clients, I am regularly backing up so I don't lose the work that I'm doing. Now, one of the big reasons I'm talking about this to what's mostly a drone crowd here is because I do have a lot of people asking about building their own websites. I've had a couple patrons recently on Patreon ask me about building their websites, and I'm happy to do work for folks who find me here on channel, but I'm also happy to teach you how to do it yourself. Give a man a fish, he's fed for a day, teach one to fish, and they're set for their life, right? So I do like helping all of you with building your drone businesses. I'm going through my build, you're going through your builds, and if we do this together, we can always help each other out. So there you go. All right. We have now updated to X Theme Pro. I'm just going to go visit the site again. Now, before I showed you that I could go to my little Pro symbol, and my little toolbar up here changed a little bit. We got this cool little green icon now that I didn't have before. And I have an Edit Page button. So I'm going to hit Edit Page. I'm a little confused because normally when I hit Edit Page, it takes me right into the Cornerstone Builder. Now it feels like, am I missing my page? This is different. This is not the interface that we just saw a few minutes ago. So we've got our headers, our content footers, layouts, theme options. There's another theme options located in the dashboard. This does not look anything like what I jumped into just a few minutes ago to work on that page. So I'm going to hit launch. And when I hit launch, there's my page. Okay, so the page is still there. So they put this extra button in my way with a bunch of other options that while I recognize the options, they're not usually in the page builder, they're somewhere else. So they made some changes. Now also I'm looking up here and I don't have my section so I'm missing section, I'm missing elements. There's the inspector. Okay, there's an inspector there, good. So, but not looking the same to me. We got settings. Settings used to be down on the lower left corner. So let's look at this left bar for a second here, because this is freaking me out. Now, this is where I would get contacts from students if a minor change happened. Let's say this is much bigger than a minor change. But oftentimes, the folks at ThemeCo, the X Theme people, would move the damn buttons around. So they just move the buttons around. They'd move the phone button up, and they'd move a preview button down, and they'd move a settings button up. They were still on the same bar, but they just moved the icons around, which is really annoying. Why are we moving the jello around the plate? Stop it. So now we have save down in the bottom left corner, which is where it was before. Okay, that's really different, right, Davenport? And good morning, Supersonic. How you doing? Yeah, so this Davenport was a shocking change to me. Here I am working on the client's thing, and I always like to keep their stuff up to date. I didn't get an email from X Theme saying, hey, we did a massive change. But then I went and looked at the changelog afterward, and, bad language came out of my mouth, let me tell you. So for that class that I had up for almost 2 years, I had done some updates, but in the spring, I decided to actually take that class offline. The original version is still available to anyone who purchased that, but it's going to require an entire overhaul. So the big question is it time to sit down and do that? Because X Theme is a very small market in the WordPress builders. So it's, doing a 15 to 17 hour video series, I'd really need to see 1,000 or 2,000 people show up to take the class to make it worthwhile, because I try to do reasonable pricing on the classes. So anyways, they moved my buttons around. They moved the jello around the plate. So now JavaScript's down here, cascading style sheet. They have a revert and a go back, so that's kind of like an undo, so I do like that. There's our preview size, so if you remember from the last one, that sucker got moved. And elements is over here now. So before we had our sections, our elements, and our inspector up here on the top, so they just moved that guy down. Why? We could have had this over here. So we've got an outline button. We've got the content button. So, content, this is my other pages. So I can go from this page to another page from this. I don't know. Okay, that's a little confusing. Then we've got our inspector. So let's click on the text here and let's see what's happening. Now, if you remember before, I said that we had our section, our row, and our column, and that was written across the bottom here. That's not here anymore. Now it's over here. Top banner, row, column, text. So as I was saying, they're moving the jello around the plate. So this information was over here. Now it's up here where we never used to have information. So I'm a little confused. And we're in our inspector mode. So I'm going to click on the top banner. And let's just look at the top banner. There we go. So that's the section. And now over on the left-hand side in the inspector, they've changed some of this. Some of this remains the same, but they've added some new things. Primary particle. This isn't a particle accelerator, so I'm not quite sure. So I have some learning to do. But what I'm going to do, so this threw me off at first, but why I'm showing this to you is in a lot of software, it's not just page builders or anything. Developers will put out some minimal upgrades as well, where they add a couple little things and you've got to go poking around to find it out. So either you wait on an instructor to do this, or you start going around. And I always tell people, don't be afraid to poke menu buttons. If you are backing stuff up on a regular basis, you should be all set. So I'm going to go over in this top section. I'm going to click on that text box. It's got Good Sam and some other information in it. Now up here it says top banner, row 1, column 2, text, and that we're looking at the text box. And then we got a setup button as well. And on the left-hand side, so we're working on text, so we can change our margins. So let's just be dramatic. I massively changed the margins there. And let's change all the padding as well. Boom. Oh, that's awful. Whoops. Let's go back to 0 for that. All right, bad example. But something else that I noticed when I was playing with this, we got something new. We got effects here. Ooh, effects. And we've got customize here. So these are new buttons we haven't seen before. So I'm going to click on effects. And now over on the left-hand side, we've got the base opacity. So let's see what that does. Look at that. It made that completely transparent so we could make it faded. So what they're doing here, in my mind, is they're giving me some photo editing tools or some column editing tools. And that's a little weird. We've got filters here, and this is why I'm saying photo tools, because if I click on add a filter here, we can do blurs. Look at that column now. It's a blur. Hey, I do that in Photoshop with the photos that I'm using for web pages. So now I've got a quasi photo editor going on in here. Weird. Let's see what else we got. Brightness, contrast. Hey, let's go down to saturate and do something obnoxious here. So desaturated. Oh, look, that Good Sam is now grayscale. Totally oversaturated. And we've got this nightmarish looking logo here. Let's go over to this text box. So let's make sure top banner, row 1, column 1, text. And let's go to effects here. And let's go down and add a filter, shall we? And let's just, oh, look at that. Totally blurred out my image. Let's go down to saturate and make this extremely obnoxious or extremely grayscale. So this is looking a lot different than my Cornerstone editor from a few minutes ago while we started doing this. There are a lot of new tools here, a lot of new buttons, a lot of new elements, and they moved the jello around the plate on me by moving some of the menus that I'm used to. Now, the person that I was working with last week, that I was working on their website with, is learning at the moment. She's not an expert with this. So I've been doing all of these videos with her since October. We've been doing this slow build around their schedule. So she has a large series of videos for me, a large series of videos where we were working together. Now I'm going to have to drop her a note next week and say to her, we need to re-record a lot of stuff because the buttons and the builder, all this stuff has gone kind of weird. So this is going to be extremely confusing to somebody new to website building. And this could be confusing to you too as you're doing your online presence for your drone business or other small business. You got used to a certain pattern. You got used to where buttons are, what tool sets were available to you. And now you've got this overwhelming number of new features here. We've got all these tools. So the inspector, let's look at this layout here. I'm just going to grab that top banner. The inspector can be used for your top banner. It can be used for that text element. So let's do that. Now it's top banner, row, column. Each one of these steps, column. So I'm on column. And we're in the inspector for columns. So these are things on the left-hand side that are specific to columns, to that column I'm looking at. If I go down into the text box, now when I'm in the inspector, these are items that affect the text box. So let's be obnoxious here, and we're going to just go ahead and smash all of this stuff in. Do you see what happened to my text box? This is changing. My image is actually resizing. So it is responsive design. It's going to resize for you to show you how it works on big screen versus how it works on a tiny little iPhone. And, you know, I could go over to padding here and get obnoxious with that too. So that is affecting this particular text box. But I could also go out to the column, and in the column, I could also go nuts here. So let's do the padding of the column as well. Wow. So I can affect all the way down to my smallest box, my smallest element. I can affect the columns. I can affect the rows, I can affect the sections. And every one of these steps, you can go in and they have different or similar tool sets for those inspectors. That's feeling a little more overwhelming now. It's the same with the other one, but because of the fact they've added these additional things, we've got this setup, we've got our design, we've got our particles down at the bottom, and we don't know what particles are. We've got effects where we can blur things, where we can change the opacity. So suddenly what felt pretty simple to the novice X theme user has, over the course of time, added a lot of tools. I'm sure it's tools people asked for, but for the average person, if you're building a simple site for your business to direct people to or to help you find clients in your area, this builder might look a little overwhelming at first. Now, like I said, one of the things you can do is you can come in here and you can play around with all this. You'll also notice that I have not gone over to the save button down in the lower left corner yet. So everything that I've done to this has not been saved yet. So if I hate what I did and I need to go back, I can do that. So I'm gonna, in the upper left corner, so this one threw me for a loop too, because previously in the upper left corner, it was back to the dashboard. It didn't have all this other stuff. So now from here, I could launch to headers, content, which is what we're looking at. We're looking at a content one, footers, layouts, templates. You can make your own templates. So global blocks are things that can follow through on every single page. They've got Design Cloud now where you can get website designs from ThemeCo, so pre-canned designs if you want. Theme options, usually I'm using theme options out in the main WordPress area, but now it's here too. So it just got, excuse me for that. It just got a little confusing because there's all this extra stuff, so it's going to feel overwhelming. Now, you don't have to be using WordPress and X Theme to have a similar thing happen with other builders out there. So, Squarespace, they're going to do upgrades over time. They'll make some changes, but I think they do a pretty good job of notifying their customers. So any other web builders you can think of, over time, they get these upgrades too, but this is kind of overwhelming and shocking. So if you can't understand why I decided to discontinue that X theme class earlier in the year, now you might be able to understand, because literally a lot of it is them moving the Jello around the plate. And for beginners, they're going to get overwhelmed by, over selection of choices, in my opinion. So that's just my opinion though. So I hit that bar over there. Now I'm going to go down to WordPress admin because I just want to go out to the main WordPress. I don't want to save what I did because we just made this horrible. So it pops up a window for me as it always did before. Are you sure you want to leave here? I tell it, yeah, man, I want to leave here. So it didn't change that page on me. So that's awesome. And for new folks to the channel, I'm always looking over to the right side to check on people's comments or if they have any questions. And, sorry for this one going longer, but I really wanted to show you how these things can change massively. And if you're planning on building your own website for your business, things that might come out of left field on you, where you're focusing on your business, you got your website the way you want it, but then an upgrade comes along and it breaks some of the things that you like, or it moves things around on you. So I just want you to be aware of that. Now, normally, so they just gave me a bunch of other kooky options that were never there for me before. They were always under, so I'm pointing at Pro, but for a standard X theme user, it would just be X right there. So Pro has a couple more tools than X. I think for the average drone pilot who's trying to increase their outreach and make a nice looking website, you don't need the Pro version at all. The standard X version is fine and it's more reasonable. Down the road, you can always upgrade to it anyways. So now under Pro, we've got validation. That's for them making sure that you have a legitimate license. They've got settings. There's headers again. So remember we were exiting out of that last page and it showed me headers. Normally that wouldn't be there, but now it's there. So we've got headers, content, footers, layouts, theme options, templates, global blocks, and Design Cloud. So some of the stuff that we saw while we were editing that page when we were leaving it is also here. Now, I was always used to it being here on my main WordPress bar. But now let's just go ahead and do that edit with Pro again. And so once again, I selected it from that page I was editing. So they're also giving me other options. They're saying, hey, you don't just have to go work on the one that you just selected to edit. You could go do these other things too. I don't really like this screen. I was just in the standard WordPress page editor. I clicked on Cornerstone, so I'm telling you, program, I want to go edit that. And instead it says to me, hey, by the way, instead of the salad, why don't you get the soup? So this bothers me a little bit because that was a little confusing. I was like, how do I get to the darned page? So if I click on content, it's going to show me all the pages I have. It's not going to show me the one I wanted. So I have to go over to this launch. And like I said, now that you saw it out in the main WordPress window, I just wanted to show you this again. So as you can see, give me one moment. I'm having a dry throat. Okay, and hopefully that mute button worked. By the way, if the stream quality is going down a little bit, I'm getting a little notice from YouTube that the stream's bit rate is a little lower than the recommended. All right, taking a look back over here. So I am just going to close that little window. So once again, this was quite the shocker to me because last week I had a series of updates to do for my clients that I was working with, and also for my other clients who are ongoing maintenance clients. And the change was dramatic enough to where I actually restored from backup, and I'm still on the older version for that particular customer. So I reverted myself away from that one because first I need to have a conversation with that particular customer and let her know a lot of the videos I just supplied you with are a changing. And this one was a very noticeable big leap. On smaller updates that come out from ThemeCo or other companies for that matter, usually users can figure it out and go, oh, I see the button that I was familiar with is now over here. Like the Elements button really threw me for a loop because Elements has always been up top here. We've always had our section, our elements, and our inspector. So them doing this was kind of weird. Also adding in the theme options. So I think I said earlier, but I'm going to repeat it. You can do some global changes to the entire look and feel of your website under the theme options. So here's our stack. So if we wanted to change all the colors for these buttons and things, we could do that. So the top bar black, and it's also a different stack. So they have 4 different what they call stacks, which are overall big design layouts, but then you can change those around. So let's go down to ethos, and you're going to see that this site, whoa, did this site just change? The top bar went from colors to now it's black here. It's changed the width of the overall page, so it looks a little different. Down on the bottom, looking a little different as well. It's got these little blocks going on here. And if I were to switch back to renew, let's just see that change happen really quick. Pretty big change right there. Let's go back down to that ethos one and have a little fun. So top bar background. Ugh. But as you can see, this is going to change every single page. So that top bar background, let's just go be obnoxious, shall we? Let's go get some strange. There we go. So now we've changed that one up. And widget headings and widget text. Blog options, a filterable index, a post carousel. So we can change some things about the layout of our blog here as well. So normally I would have to exit out to the main WordPress dashboard to access some of these things. And I'm going to close the stack button. Oh, it won't let me close the stack button. Okay. See, learning something new. Layout and design. Let's click on that. So we could have a full width site or a box site. Let's see what's going on with that. It doesn't really look too different to me. Content layout. Okay, we could have sidebars instead of full width. We could change the site's width. So what's that going to do to us? Oh, look how it moved in stuff. So it's got kind of these open areas. So once again, probably boring to watch me just play around with this, but I often advise clients and students alike to go ahead and tinker with these things and experiment with them, because you can always undo what you did. Okay, I get it. The stack closes when I open layout and design. So then I could go down to typography and I can pick the different fonts I want to use. So I can have header fonts, I can have main paragraph fonts. So there we go. Body and content right now is Arial. So we could go in and just, pick, I don't know, let's just pick a font. And this is for our body and content. And so now it's changed the fonts for the body and content. All right, I'm going to stop belaboring this, but I just wanted to show this to you and explain to you that if you are taking on the task of building your own website as well for your drone business or any other small business, there's going to be some regular upkeep and maintenance for security purposes, but also the vendors who give you your page builders are going to be making changes over time. So this is another thing to factor into. Is it worth your time to spend working on your website, or is it more worth your time to get out there and do your flights and maybe have a professional do your websites? Not selling myself for it. Like I said, I've got several patrons and a couple other folks on this channel and a few folks from some of my classes who I have been working with and helping out with their websites, but also making sure that they're educated about their website builds as well. So something to think about as you're building your business. But this freaked me out this week because this was such a large change, in my mind at least, such a large change that I'm going to have to go through and re-record some videos for my currently active clients who we're doing a couple of website projects right now for other clients. And I'm going to have a conversation with them, show them the new layout and features, and probably re-record a couple demos for them now because of how dramatic those were. So there we go. I wanted to show everybody that, and let's go ahead and let me make sure I'm not missing anything else, that I had anything else up here to talk to you about. And let's see, I can imagine that affects the normal workflow. You get used to using these page builders or any technology, Take a look at Photoshop, for instance. Photoshop has had a pretty consistent layout for quite a long time, for well over a decade. While they've added new filters in and new features and new tools, they still keep the overall feel the same. So they don't go massively moving buttons all over the place on you every time they do an update. Same with Lightroom. Lightroom Classic today, I can still see a lot of the original first Lightroom I ever used back in 2007 or 2008. So they keep this consistency. What I've noticed with some of these theme builders and some of these page builders, I sometimes feel like their developers are justifying their jobs. Not being mean to you guys, but sometimes some of these releases are a little silly because you moved 2 menu items around. And it didn't really affect anything else. What I've showed you here today is a major update that has affected a lot, has affected the workflow, and is going to require a bit of a learning curve, even for those people who are experienced with WordPress and X Theme. And like I said, the other page builders out there do it too. When I was first making my choices about X Theme a couple of years ago, I had read some forums on some other page builders where people were complaining, oh, they changed the menus and they broke this and they broke that. So I figured I'm going to go with X Theme. And over the years, I have found as well that some of their updates have broken things that I liked, like some of my slideshows got broken, that some of my grids got broken, some of my tabbed browsing got broken. And then we had to go back and find out. Normally, the support folks will say, well, it might not be compatible with that Slider Revolution right now. Well, Slider Revolution came packaged with this product, so they should probably play nice. Or other plugins that you decide on, like we've got a table builder right here, for instance, and so we can make tables because one of my clients likes tables a lot. But, in an update, maybe some things stop working and you get in touch with them and they're like, oh, well, it doesn't really work that well with the table builder. Well, you know something? In the previous version, it worked just fine. The table builder worked great and the X theme worked great. So how about getting those things fixed? So when some of these major updates also come out, if you are working on your own websites, and I know there's a couple of folks who popped in today, or will be watching this later, who are working on their websites right now, and all I have to say to you is make backups before you hit that update, and that'll save you a lot of headaches. And also, when you see some of these plugin lists where the plugins are telling you, you've got a bunch of things to update, it's worth going and doing a read through on the latest release notes, so you can view details on these things, so you'll see. And like I said, this is my sandbox, so there's very little on it. But go into the view details, make sure that there's no compatibility issues, and make sure that you're backed up so that when you do blow the website up, you're able to get back to your previous point easier. So, all right, there we go. So this was just a random live stream today, which I thought I'd share with everybody, and I hope this has been helpful. If you're thinking about building your website for your online presence, considering it, or considering whether or not you should hire a professional in your area to help you out with that, I hope that this gave you some more to think about and to look at before you make your decisions of, I'll go with X Theme, or I'll go with these other builders, or I'm going to go with the Squarespace. Whatever it is, changes are going to happen. And when those changes happen, you're going to have to adapt and do a little bit of relearning. All right, everybody, I'm going to run off and enjoy the rest of the Saturday. I've actually got a couple other videos to do later in the afternoon for the newest class, which, like I said, was supposed to be out, but, between holidays and work and other things going on in the world in general, I kind of backburnered it a little bit. We do still have some more videos to add to it. And for those of you on the Patreon channel, I'd like to hear back from you and let me know. I know a lot of you are beta testing that class, and I'd love to get some of your input back before I finalize things for the 1st of January. All right, everyone, have an awesome one. We'll see you again real soon. There will be another live stream on Monday as well, and who knows, there might be another impromptu one tomorrow, because I've got a long list of videos and live streams sitting in front of me in the notepad still. So thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we'll see you again real soon, probably Monday.